We have multiple Los Angeles Lakers trade updates to go over as some new reports have dropped revealing not only Rob Pelinka's plans as the deadline approaches, but a surprising new Lakers target. We're going to break that down and discuss what it means going forward as Pelinka gave some very interesting insight as well in the press conference today, and a move is imminent. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into it, quick reminder, if you're a part of the 86% who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Lakers content. We're on the road and getting close to 10,000 subscribers, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. Okechi, there's a lot to go over today. We're talking about some centers. Obviously, Rob Pelinka had a video on a couple hours ago, but Rob Pelinka's talking about centers that they need and how it might be a little bit tough to get some really nice high-level centers. But a report dropped this afternoon that I want to get your thoughts on here because it is an interesting one, and we'll dive into some of the quotes as well. But it is Steven Adams of all players. You can see this here. This is from Sam Amick. League sources say the Lakers have had talks with Houston about 31-year-old big man Steven Adams, who is on an expiring deal. And while the two sides have been significantly apart with no signs that a deal might get done yet, these talks offer some clarity as to what Pelinka has been thinking here. So again, whether they actually get Steven Adams is still probably doubtful, but this gives some insight as to what the type of player and the type of acquisition costs that Rob Pelinka is looking for, as the deadline now is about 48 hours away.
I mean, Rob's got to do is he doesn't have much time. It's especially with the Lakers, 48 hours you said, so they have to make a move here or there. And he said it in the presser, like it's probably not going to be a big splashy move. It's probably going to be something around the margins. And Steven Adams, who is essentially the third center, sometimes second center, if Şengün is out for the Rockets. So going after a guy like him, it makes sense to get like a serviceable big man. He can do the job, but like he's not super exciting. But I think he is a guy that can do the job, which is something the Lakers need at this point without Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I mean, he's an interesting player. He was very good at one point. This season now, he plays less. He doesn't start many games. He started 2 games. He's putting up 3 points. Realistically, at this point of his career, I can't imagine they would be pursuing him with the idea of him starting, even though he's 2 years removed from being an everyday starter for the majority of his career. We think back to his time with Memphis, of course, his time with the Thunder in his prime. He's a great screener. He's
Mhm.
physical. He's a good rebounder, a solid defender at times, but he's at the point of his career now, and it's not like he's old. He is coming off of an injury. He didn't play last season. But when it comes to what moves this could, signify going forward, we've been talking about guys both on the stream and in videos, guys like Nic Claxton, players of that nature. Now, of course, Steven Adams is a lot cheaper than Nic Claxton would be. But when it comes to the type of player that Rob Pelinka is looking for, even though he doesn't have much time, we'll dive into some of the quotes here. You can kind of see the type of framework regarding a player he wants, a guy who is defensive minded, can get rebounds and get up and down the floor, pay pick and roll defense. Because right now, I mean, they have Jackson Hayes, and that would be the question: is it worth giving up assets for a guy like Steven Adams when you have Jackson Hayes who could potentially play that backup center spot? But now it gives a bit of a framework as to what type of players they're looking for here as the deadline is inching close.
Yeah, so this guy, because they do need like a more physicality and force, because Anthony Davis, albeit with all the noise, like this guy was every day played with a sense of force, urgency out there. Rugged screen setter. So just some of the things obviously you're not going to replicate. You're not going to get that all level defensive talent, but like you if you can get a guy to just do some serviceable things, like I said, rebounding, setting good screens. A guy like Steven Adams has never been like a high turnover guy. When he gets the ball, he moves it along. He doesn't take three-pointers, so he's not taking bad shots. So you're right about him starting. Maybe it's a no, but as a backup, I wouldn't be against it, especially in this market. And if there isn't any better trade to make, if we can't get like those Nic Claxtons or Miles Turner out there in the world, then maybe Steve Adams can make this work. But if that's the case, maybe get two bigs like you suggested earlier in our stream. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's at the point now where, and he wouldn't be a very impactful starting center at this point of his career. However, when it leads to the fact, like again, he also was a terrible free throw shooter, which is ridiculous.
Mhm.
In his last full season, he shot 36% from the free throw line, which is something that could be an issue. But we're talking about what Rob Pelinka said. He wanted to say the urgency is ever present. At the same time, you had to be realistic. If there's not a championship big, I can't wave a wand. As we saw with this trade, it takes two teams. And that's why players like Steven Adams and another player we're getting to in a minute here are probably more realistic targets than guys like Miles Turner and guys like Walker Kessler, because it seems like the teams that have those players, whether it be the Jazz, whether it be the Pacers or Miles Turner, just aren't willing to trade them. And the Lakers have their first round pick in 2031 that they can give up. And he spoke out, like I covered earlier, on making trades. We know the roster has work to do to be complete. To be clear, we're going to build a roster around JJ's philosophy, which is another interesting thing because obviously they're all in on the JJ Redick side of it now. And they desperately need a big. And he said in the press conference that he's been talking to Luka Doncic. I'm sure Luka has some thoughts about what type of big he wants coming from Dallas, playing with a big man like Derek Lively and some other big men over there. So similar framework, obviously, to guys like Nick Claxton, and they're working hand in hand with JJ, Luka, and Rob to get this to get a center done because you desperately have to get a center. Like, there's no question about it. It's just a matter of the level of center that they're going to be able to get.
I mean, yeah, just like go around the league. Like every team now has like a pretty formidable center. When healthy, you look at the team at the top, OKC with Chet Holmgren. You got over there in Minnesota, like yeah, Rudy Gobert have his qualms about him, but he is much better than any big the Lakers got. And then now Dallas, they got Anthony
Yeah.
Davis, they got Lively, they got Gaffer, they've got all this size. And then oh yeah, what's going down there in the bottom of the conference? It's Wembanyama coming up, and now De'Aaron Fox and company. So the whole league has all of these big men, especially in your conference, the Western Conference. So the Lakers have to get a guy that can play that role. I do envision them though playing more small ball. We talked about it a bit some, but I do think that is more going to be the route, especially in this current iteration of the team. While LeBron is still there, you still have all of those wings like Finney Smith, Vanderbilt, and Hachimura if you don't trade those guys for another big man.
Yeah, and there's avenues for them to play small. There's avenues for them to go out and get a player like, who we'll talk about now, Robert Williams, who the Lakers are
Mhm.
in on. However, this report just came out that the Trailblazers are seeking an unprotected first round pick for Robert Williams. And let's not forget, yes, Robert Williams a few years ago was a Defensive Player of the Year finalist, top 10 in voting. He now hasn't been healthy for 2 years, and even when healthy, is not the same player that he was with the Celtics. He is a great defensive big man. I was expecting them to maybe be asking one or two second round picks, like at the most here, or maybe a type of young player. I don't think there is any world where the Lakers now pursue Robert Williams, or unless the value goes down. There's some Jovan Buha. I mean, do you have any thoughts on it? An unprotected first is, let's not forget that to get Luka Doncic, of course, they gave up AD. They only had to give
Mhm.
up one first round pick here. So I can't imagine they're going to use their one tradable first round pick remaining on Robert Williams, even though he probably has the higher ceiling of a lot of the guys we've been talking about.
Yeah, he does. And I do like Robert Williams, like before all the injury stuff, because like he was, I think, a force in Boston. It was a big reason why that team was in the finals against the Warriors in 2022. But he hasn't really played a full season since then. And then if you did have questions about Anthony Davis, was the injury stuff. So like going in with another big who isn't as good as AD and is not as tall. He's about like 6'9",
Yep.
but he's very rangy and athletic, which kind of makes up for it. But I don't see why the Trailblazers, especially for a team that has they have a log jam of centers. They have to get rid of somebody with Aiton, Klingon, and
Robert.
Robert Williams, and they also got I think a fourth center too. So they have four centers on the roster, just kind of just taking up space. So they have to get rid of somebody. So having a high asking price for Robert Williams just doesn't make sense to me. Like it has to come down here in the next 48 hours, or else you're gonna end up in the deadline with four centers, and your team is not winning any games. They're not going to the play-in. They're definitely going to be in the lottery.
Yeah, and that's the big question mark. Will the Trailblazers asking price go down? You have to assume. I can't imagine any team is going to pay. But if the market is as dry as Rob Pelinka says, maybe other teams now will start to overcharge for some of their guys. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know down below what your thoughts are. Would you be interested in a Steven Adams or Robert Williams acquisition? Let us know down below. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.